video is the solution video for the 2020 paper, paper 1, question 5. We began this in class yesterday and we had worked through part A of the question to get a result of €1,244.06. So now let's look at part B of the question. So in part B, we have another couple that agreed to take a mortgage out of $350,000 and they're going to pay it back over 25 years at a monthly rate of 0.3% per month, and they're going to make a monthly repayment of €1,771. So the first thing that I'm noting here is that 25 years can be written in monthly form as 300 and that the rate can be written in decimal form as 0.003. So this couple start repaying their mortgage, and then after 11 years they have a windfall, they win the lotto or something, and they decide to pay off the remaining balance of the mortgage. And we want to figure out basically how much they need to pay as that lump sum in order to clear the mortgage. So first of all, let's just kind of visualize their journey through their mortgage, if you like, to kind of get an idea of what we should do. So they start off the mortgage at the very beginning. I'm going to call that month 0. And if nothing had happened, if they hadn't had that windfall, they would have gone right the way through to month 300, making their payments all the way along. But instead, they got to this point 11 years in, and it's the end of year 11, so I can actually change that into months just to kind of keep it consistent with the previous information in the question. So they're 132 months in, and they decide to repay the entire outstanding amount. So we know that mortgage repayments are based on the present value of the future payments. And at this point, after those 11 years, we've got all these future payments to think about, the payments from this point right through to the end of the mortgage. So what we're going to need to do is to take all these future payments that they haven't made yet from year 11 on and find the sum of their present values. Now the question is, what do we mean by their present values? When is the present? Well, the present is now at the end of year 11 when they want to make that lump sum repayment to clear the mortgage. So we're going from here at the end of year 11 to here at what would have been the end of the natural term of the mortgage. But this is no longer 300 months in the future because we've already gotten as far as month 132. So I'm going to readjust this to take account of that fact. And I'm simply subtracting 132 from 300 for this. And from their perspective, at this point, at the end of year 11, this is 168 months in the future. So I would have 168 more repayments to make to get to the end of the mortgage. So it's those 168 payments that I need to find the sum of their present values. So the first thing that I need to make a note of myself is, what is that formula for present value? So there's my formula. And of course, the future repayments are all going to be 1,771 as indicated in the question. So my calculation will look like this. The very next repayment they would make will be 1 month in the future after the end of year 11. So it's 1,771 over 1 plus 0.003 to the power of 1. And then 2 months later, and I've got a whole load more payments. My second last payment is after 167 months. And my final payment is after 168 months. And now I want to sum these together. And just like in previous questions, I'm going to start by just reversing the order of the terms. And again, I just do that because it makes it a little bit easier to fill in our sum of the series formula in a second. You might note in this particular question that I'm giving you the first 2 values in the series and the last 2, and that's specifically because they've asked me to do that in the question, so I must make sure to follow the instruction there. I'm going to note now the formula for Sn. So that is A times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. I'm going to identify my first term here as A. My constant ratio in this case is 1.003, and n is just those number of months that were remaining over the term of their mortgage, which is 168. So now that I have those values, I can fill them into the formula. So in this case, Sn will be equal to A, which is 1771 over 1.003 to the power of 168. I got carried away on the zeros there. And just for convenience of entry on the calculator as much as anything else, it's fine for me to keep the A here out in front of the rest of the fraction. So I'm going to leave it like this and then multiply by, on top, 1 minus 1.003 to the power of 168. And on the bottom by 1 minus 1.003. And then it's just a question of going to the calculator and taking great care to type this in exactly as you see it on your page. Again, make sure that for every bracket you open that you close a bracket, otherwise it's going to end up saying error 2 on the calculator. And when I calculate this, the final lump sum required to clear the mortgage is €233,438.25. And in this question, they wanted the answer correct, the nearest cent.